For every loved WWE General Manager who fans cheered for, there's also one that made viewers want to change the channel. Starting with John Laurinaitis, who went from corporate stooge to the most boring authority figure in WWE history. Originally working behind the scenes as WWE's head of talent relations, Big Johnny stepped into the spotlight in 2011 when he was named as the interim Raw General Manager. The seeds for this run were planted when CM Punk mentioned Laurinaitis as a nonsensical yes-man for Vince McMahon during his infamous pipe bomb promo leading into the 2011 Money in the Bank event. Over the following weeks, it'd be revealed that Big Johnny was trying to undermine Triple H's position as WWE's chief operating officer, as he wanted the role for himself. On the October 10th episode of Raw, after several members of the Raw roster walked out on Triple H, Vince McMahon would introduce Laurinaitis as the show's new general manager. What made fans instantly hate him was his monotone, robotic delivery and corporate buzzword-filled speeches that felt like reading a LinkedIn post. Laurinaitis would constantly talk about people power while making decisions that benefited himself and his handpicked superstars like Alberto Del Rio and Dolph Ziggler. His feuds against John Cena and CM Punk were an attempt at recreating the boss versus employee dynamic of the legendary Vince Austin feud, but they ended up failing hard because Big Johnny had the charisma of a dead fish. By the time he was finally removed from power in 2012, fans were relieved after months of the people power torture. But while Laurinaitis made fans want to throw their remotes at the TV, the complete opposite can be said about Nick Aldis, who's quickly become one of the most respected general managers in WWE today. Taking over as SmackDown General Manager in 2024, the former NWA World Champion brought instant credibility to the role. Unlike the corporate stooges before him, Aldis feels like a legit authority figure who actually understands wrestling. His extensive wrestling background, including championship reigns across NWA and TNA, gives him the kind of street cred that makes his authority feel earned rather than handed down from corporate. Fans love that he treats everyone with respect while not being afraid to take a stand when superstars cross the line. However, while Aldis has won over the WWE Universe, Adam Pearce has become one of the most frustrating authority figures in recent memory. The former NWA World Heavyweight Champion seemed like the perfect choice when he became WWE's on-screen authority figure in 2020. Fans initially respected his wrestling background and no-nonsense approach, but that goodwill quickly evaporated when Pearce started being a pushover and turned into a puppet for WWE's management. While Aldis stands up to wrestlers when they push him, Pearce lacks the backbone required from an authority figure and constantly gets bullied by names like Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, and even Dominic Mysterio. Fans have grown tired of his corporate speeches and his tendency to show up just to deliver bad news. The fact that he rarely gets physical or shows any emotion makes him feel more like a messenger boy than an actual authority figure. What started as promise has turned into frustration, with fans now groaning whenever he makes an appearance on Monday nights. Moving on from Adam Pearce's disappointing run, let's talk about the most beloved general manager in SmackDown history. Taking over SmackDown in 2004, Teddy Long quickly won over the hearts of the WWE Universe with his unique catchphrases and refreshing energy. The former referee brought something WWE had never seen before: a general manager who felt like he genuinely cared about giving fans what they wanted. Long's signature phrases and his tendency to book tag team matches became legendary memes that fans still quote today. But what really made him special was his obvious love for the business. When heels would try to intimidate him, Long would stand his ground with a fiery passion that made fans want to cheer. His feuds with superstars like JBL, Booker T, Edge, and Vickie Guerrero established him as the force of justice on the blue brand, while his tendency to punish bad guys by making them face The Undertaker became iconic.
With The Undertaker!
Even when he made mistakes, fans forgave him because his heart was always in the right place. Towards the final stretch of his run, Teddy would get into feuds against The Undertaker, John Laurinaitis, and Cesaro before eventually being released in 2014. His farewell from the blue brand had grown men crying because, after a decade, losing Teddy felt like losing a family member who just wanted everyone to have a good time. But while Teddy Long made fans smile, nobody has ever generated more pure hatred as SmackDown General Manager than Vickie Guerrero, who went on to become the most despised authority figure in the history of the blue brand. Following Eddie Guerrero's tragic death in 2005, Vickie initially appeared as a sympathetic widow, but that sympathy quickly turned to disgust when she started using Eddie's memory to manipulate situations for her own gain. Taking over as SmackDown General Manager in 2007, Vickie perfected the art of being absolutely insufferable. Her ear-piercing
Excuse
became the most hated catchphrase in wrestling, instantly making crowds erupt in boos so loud they could be heard from space. What made fans despise her wasn't just her shrill voice, it was how she'd constantly abuse her power to help her on-screen boyfriend Edge cheat his way to championships. She'd restart matches, change stipulations mid-match, and openly favor the heels in ways that made fans want to reach through their TV screens. But the most infuriating part was watching her smile smugly after screwing over fan favorites like Rey Mysterio and The Undertaker. By the time she stepped down in 2014, Vickie had mastered the art of getting booed out of a building. But while Vickie made fans boo her out of hatred, the anonymous Raw General Manager made fans turn off the TV out of pure frustration. The concept seemed intriguing at first. An unseen authority figure who would send emails to Michael Cole, who would then read them with his smuggest voice possible. But what started as an interesting mystery quickly became one of the most annoying gimmicks in Raw history. Every week, that obnoxious laptop chime would ring out, and fans knew they were about to hear some ridiculous decision that made no sense. The anonymous GM would constantly restart matches, reverse decisions, and make stipulations that clearly favored the heels. But the worst part wasn't just the bad booking. It was the complete lack of payoff. For nearly 2 years, fans endured this nonsense, waiting for a big reveal that would make it all worth it. Instead, we got the most anticlimactic revelation ever when it was casually mentioned that Hornswoggle had been the anonymous GM all along. The whole angle felt like a middle finger to fans who had invested time in the mystery. To this day, hearing that laptop chime brings back traumatic memories for wrestling fans who lived through this creative disaster. But while the anonymous GM was a perfect example of how to not be an authority figure, William Regal showed the right way to run things during his legendary run as NXT General Manager from 2014 to 2019. Unlike the corporate puppets on the main roster, Regal felt like a real authority figure who understood what it meant to be a wrestler. His background as a legit tough guy and technical wrestling wizard gave him instant credibility with both the NXT roster and the fans. What made Regal so beloved was his fairness combined with his dry British wit. When heels like Kevin Owens and Pete Dunne would try to manipulate their way out of situations, Regal would shut them down with the authority of someone who'd seen every trick in the book. The NXT fans loved watching him deal with chaos. Whether it was Samoa Joe's Rampage or the Undisputed Era's schemes, Regal's signature call for War Games became iconic, and when he finally stepped down, it felt like NXT lost the cool uncle who could let loose and be strict at the same time. Regal proved that the best general managers aren't the ones who try to steal the show. They're the ones who make you care about the show. And speaking of general managers who made fans care, Daniel Bryan brought that same energy to SmackDown Live during his run from 2016 to 2018. Fresh off his forced retirement, the leader of the Yes Movement channeled his passion for wrestling into being the most fan-friendly GM in WWE. What made Bryan special was that he never forgot what it felt like to be held back by corporate politics. So he always fought for the underdog wrestlers who reminded him of his own journey. When heels like The Miz would try to manipulate him, Bryan's fiery comebacks reminded everyone why fans fell in love with him in the first place. Bryan's interactions with superstars like AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, and Kevin Owens created some of the most memorable GM segments in recent memory because you knew Bryan could kick their ass if they crossed the line. But what fans loved most was watching him gradually build toward his own comeback. Every week, you could see him getting more frustrated with just watching instead of competing. His eventual return to the ring in 2018 felt like the perfect payoff to his GM run. But while Bryan was turning SmackDown Live into the land of opportunities, Raw was going through its own bizarre phase with not one, but 2 general managers who felt out of place. Mick Foley was appointed as the Raw GM in 2016, but quickly turned into an assistant for Stephanie McMahon and her husband, Triple H. The run also saw the introduction of the Universal title, which was universally hated. However, Foley also made some good decisions, like booking Sheamus and Cesaro in a best-of-7 series before putting them into a tag team. When Stephanie McMahon and Triple H threatened his position, Foley retaliated by attacking Triple H with the Socko, but he would get fired the week later. When he was eventually written off TV, the reaction was more relief than sadness, which says everything about how his run as GM disappointed everyone involved. It wasn't that Foley was terrible, it was that he felt neutered by the corporate machine. Similarly complicated was Kurt Angle's return to WWE as Raw General Manager in 2017. replacing Foley as the captain of the Red brand. What made Angle's run interesting was his prior experience serving as GM for SmackDown back in 2004. During this crazy run, we saw Angle being chokeslammed by Big Show, coming out to the ring in a wheelchair, and even shooting Big Show with a tranquilizer dart on live TV. But while Angle's run on the Blue brand was wild, his run as Raw GM in 2017 was pure chaos. It started with the bizarre storyline of Jason Jordan being revealed as Angle's son. Angle would then go on to team up with Ambrose and Rollins in his first WWE match in 11 years at TLC. The run would keep getting crazier when Angle was appointed as captain of Team Raw at Survivor Series and would eventually team up with Ronda Rousey to take on Triple H and Stephanie at WrestleMania. While all of this was fun, the worst part of this run was watching the former Olympic gold medalist get punked out by wrestlers like Baron Corbin who couldn't lace his boots. His eventual transition back to active competition and matches against the likes of Drew McIntyre, Samoa Joe, Chad Gable, and AJ Styles provided some redemption, but his GM run left fans with mixed feelings. But while Angle's return was complicated, nobody has ever mastered the art of being both loved and hated at the same time quite like Paul Heyman, whose brief but memorable run as SmackDown General Manager reminded everyone why he's considered one of wrestling's greatest minds. While in kayfabe, Heyman took over as the Blue brand's GM in 2003 after Vince beat Stephanie's ass on worldwide TV, but behind the scenes, Heyman had been the brain behind SmackDown since 2002. Under his creative lead, SmackDown saw a massive jump in wrestling quality with names like Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, Rey Mysterio, and Vickie Guerrero becoming mainstays on the Blue brand. During this time period, Heyman also became Brock Lesnar's on-screen manager and participated in memorable storylines that solidified him as the evil genius. But while Heyman was leading the Blue brand, Eric Bischoff was carving out his own legacy as one of WWE's most hated general managers on Raw. Eazy-E's run on the Red brand saw him bring back the cocky, ruthless attitude he had been known for in WCW as the boss of NWO. During his run as GM, Bischoff got involved in feuds against the likes of Teddy Long, Shane McMahon, John Cena, and even got chokeslammed off the stage by Kane. What made Bischoff unique from many other authority figures was his willingness to put his body on the line and his flexibility as both a face and a heel. Bischoff also introduced concepts like Raw Roulette and the Elimination Chamber, which would become mainstays on WWE programming for years. When Bischoff left the WWE in 2007, it marked the end of his run that saw him serve as Raw's general manager for 3 years. Speaking of 2007, check out this video next to find out why 2007 was the darkest year in WWE history.